Welcome back. Of course, this weekend, we'll be having only two games, big games that will be happening in the Premier League. Of course, there's been a lot of news surrounding the Premier League, Timothy, in the last couple of weeks. A lot of teams have taken a break. A lot of teams have been on those mid-season breaks. So there has been a lot happening, especially in the transfer windows. There's been the big news that Ivan Toney is now back from his suspension for Brentford, and he'll be captaining, according to his coach. He'll be captaining the Brentford side against on the weekend in that game that will be happening. Tell me about this Ivan Toney suspension and how do you think he will do coming back?
I think the 8 months looked long, but the Brentford team will welcome him with both hands because I think they started dipping. It's not the Brentford that we've known before. They hung in there last season after Tony was banned, but this season they seem to have struggled. And I think it's good news for Thomas Frank because Wisa is aware of the AFCON with Congo, so that gives him.
And Belmo is out till March.
Exactly, so that gives him a focal point now up front there. And I think Ivan Toney owes Brentford a lot.
At least 6 months.
So, so he has to give them all his best. And I hope really with the captaincy still with him, is able to deliver for the Brentford side.
Very interesting. Of course, we'll be waiting to see. Of course, there's been reports that he already has the results for the Nottingham Forest game. Very, very interesting there from the reports that we've been reading. But they'll be taking on Nottingham Forest in that game at the end of Saturday at 8:30 p.m. Very, very interesting. It will be interesting to watch Tony back. He scored 23 goals last season in the EPL, so that shows you that he's the marksman that can really give you goals. And of course, we saw also the sad news for Nottingham Forest as well, and Everton. They are threatened with another points deduction, Everton and Nottingham Forest, in the PSR ruling that the EPL has now made. This is becoming very, very interesting now, Tim.
Yeah, it's becoming interesting, and also I think it's not fair to these smaller sides. We've seen the big teams, the Manchester Cities of this world, doing exorbitant purchases. Chelsea, of course, trying to bypass the rules well. But I think when you start docking points or penalizing these teams, Nottingham Forest, Everton, I think for me, their sustainability is up to them. And I think they've done well. They have the money to do these purchases. So when you bring the rule to the book and then you only want to punish the smaller sides.
And then Man City is having almost 115 counts.
And Man City's judgment keeps going in, year in. So it's not fair. I would want, if the rule is set for everyone, they should be all applied at the same time. So from that's my opinion.
That will be very interesting. Of course, that ruling we know might even go as far as the end of the season. So that is still something that will be ongoing off pitch. On the pitch, we return this Saturday afternoon with Arsenal taking on Crystal Palace after a almost 14 days absence ever since they played that game against Liverpool and lost McHugh in the FA Cup. They were dumped out. Now they'll be hoping that warm weather training that they've taken on in Dubai will be enough to give them something against this Crystal Palace side. That's not a joke when it comes to this London derby.
Yeah, Tony, Crystal Palace is not a joke, especially when they go and visit the bigger sides. We saw they went to Man City, snatched an equalizer 2-2 there. They went to Chelsea, got beaten 2-1. They almost got an equalizer in that game. But I think the warm weather training that Arsenal's had, usually Arsenal, when they have this timeout, it seems there's a way Arteta brings the team when they're pumped. I thought after the Liverpool game and the games before, Arsenal looked leggy. They looked tired. Maybe this break could be a springboard for them. And I'll be shocked if Arsenal come back when they're still leggy. I think Arsenal will come back and we will see the Arsenal that started the season.
It will certainly be. It's something that Arteta cannot afford to continue sleeping up. They only have one win in the last 7 competitive fixtures. So that shows you how poorly they've performed, especially over the December period coming into this new year. So Arsenal will be trying and making sure that now they must continue getting points on the board. We know they've already slipped up in the league, 5 points behind Liverpool. So they need to continue picking up that gap, especially that Liverpool will also be in action on Sunday. So they must make sure that they get the points. The issue for Arsenal, though, after we've discussed everything about them in the goal, we won't continue to talk about that. In the goal scoring front is where they have issues. In the last 3 games, they've almost had an average of 15 shots per game, but have failed to score goals. This must be an issue that Arteta must have addressed in this warm weather training.
Yeah, he must have been looking at who is the striker who's going to get the goals. We know Gabriel Jesus is away injured, and Nketiah could be the focal man. But the Liverpool game, he tried out Kai Havertz as the centre forward, who did well, but the goals that didn't come through. But if them number nines don't get the supply, then it will be hard to get the goals. So I still come back and look at how prepared is Saka to play this game, how prepared is Martinelli from the left wing to engage the defenders, because we know for sure Roy Hodgson's team is going to be compact. He'll be looking at defending and seeing this game, and 0-0, he'll be very happy. So Arsenal has to break the side as soon as they get into this pitch. And if the chances come, I think this time Arsenal will score them.
Another person who might have benefited properly from this break is Declan Rice. We talked about how leggy he looked, how really tired and spent he had been exerting himself too much. Perhaps we shall wait to see if it's someone who has benefited from this training.
I think Declan Rice, Tony, he looked to have given his all in the first half of the season, and second half started so weak. But again, he is that number 6 who likes running. So I think he needs to start conserving his energy. He has to know when to release the ball and let the Odegaards make the other passes at the last final third. But if he's going to keep running, I think again mid-Feb March he's going again to tire. So maybe Arteta has to address his movement too.
Mark, Arsenal are still in the Champions League, so there's still a lot of football for them to play. So it will be interesting to see how Arteta shuffles around his side in this particular setting. For Crystal Palace, there are certainly no pushovers, even as though we know that they've lost Jordan Ayew, who's been one informed player for them. Jordan Ayew and Cheku Koyate have both traveled for the AFCON. So they will now be hoping to rely on the creativity of Eberechi Eze to try and create those goals. Michael Olise, who has been back in form, will be missing out in this particular one. Big, but very sad news for the coach there.
Sad news, because Olise is always that player that has the spark. He always has a moment of magic, and he could untie the defense with a single shot. But we've heard that Berechi Eze and Olise have hardly played together in the same team. One plays, the other is injured. The other comes back. I think the total minutes hardly make 200. So they have now to shuffle out. You don't have Ayew who would maybe cover up in the number 7. So who comes there? Hughes is not a winger. So maybe you'll have to move Eze to a position that doesn't prefer. And that is an advantage to Arsenal, because Eze likes moving direct from the midfield. So
as a 10.
He has a 10. So you look at the likes of maybe Mateta. We don't know if Edward is back in that team. They look deflated up front, this Crystal Palace.
It will certainly be very interesting. This will be a London derby, of course. You cannot afford to miss it. That game kicking off things at 3:30 p.m. Arsenal will be taking on Crystal Palace at the Emirates Stadium. This is a game that has provided very, very much entertainment in the past. Of course, we know that there have been very, very interesting games, matchups between these two sides. Prediction time.
I've gone for goal for Crystal Palace. I think maybe they'll snatch something with Arsenal defense, but Arsenal could score 5. So I've given Arsenal 3-1 because Crystal Palace will be defensive. 3-1 Arsenal.
So that's a big one. I've gone for 2-1 Arsenal. I think I'm still looking for where the goals will be coming from. Arsenal is still struggling. The coach is still showing a lot of faith in Martinelli and Saka, which is perhaps putting too much pressure on them. I really want to see Trossard getting a few minutes because you cannot continue pushing someone who's off form. Maybe give them some time to watch from the bench, and maybe also to know that there's competition. So I've gone for 2-1 in that particular fixture. Arsenal winning. We'll be back after the break. Give us your predictions, of course, back home. Arsenal, Crystal Palace. Tell us what you think. After the break, we'll be bringing you the Super Sunday game. Bournemouth will be hosting Liverpool. Do not go anywhere.